Hi everyone. Hoping that's in a better place. So I want to talk about mystery schools. Why call something a mystery school? What is a mystery school? There's many teachers out there, many spiritual teachers teaching all kinds of spiritual tools. Some better than others, I would say. That's where we have to use our discernment. And for me, I always say, go with someone who's been doing it for years, someone who's really embodied what it is you want to learn. But also I want to talk about prices, which is a bit of an uncomfortable topic for a lot of people. I'm not that bothered about it. I have always worked with grassroots people. I have quite an interesting backstory that I came from my family being quite poor to being quite well off, and then myself kind of being a single mum and being on benefits and always being the person who wanted to go to a workshop and had to kind of grovel and ask for a concession. And I don't like putting people in that position, and I don't believe it's particularly abundant to put people in that position. So coming back around about the mystery schools, from what I remember and things that teachings I've come across, even back in the day, Yeshua, Mary Magdalene, these ancient cultures had places where you could go for learning, and there were always different places to go for learning. And a lot of the high temple mystery schools, you had to be wealthy to get in. You had to be pretty special to get in, but you also had to have some kind of a financial backing. And whereas I think with the Essenes, that was a much more basic kind of they lived as community, the Essenes, and they grew their own food and they lived in abundance and wealth was distributed. So, we can see that today, it playing out in different scenarios, different communities, different cults, different religions. And for me, I've never, this lifetime, I can only speak for this lifetime, I've never wanted to belong to what I see as a box, to be honest, a religion, a one discipline. And I remember even being really young, being questioned of well, you can't mix Egyptian teachings with Christianity, with Buddhist meditation and yoga. And I was just like, why not? And actually, for those of us who feel like we've lived many lifetimes here, we have lived through all of those lifetimes of being a yogi, being a Buddhist, whatever, monk, teacher, living through Egyptian times, living through Atlantean times. So we have all of that knowledge within us. And that's the point I want to come to, really, is we have all that knowledge within us. And a good teacher will support you in remembering, and they will empower you to find the teachings within, your own knowledge within, using your own intuition. And coming back to kind of pricing and things like that, it's like, I look at people who are teaching women's wisdom, which for me, I've been one of those people teaching women's wisdom, but I've always kept it really grassroots, really cheap and really accessible. And actually, we have all the answers within us. So ultimately, if you just listen to your own body, you don't need a teacher. And that's what I did. That's how I learned, was like really listening to my own body and listening to my own inner wisdom. And that's how I teach. I empower people to find that in themselves. And more, my remembering, my inner knowledge was that actually, like the way Jesus taught, he transmitted energy to the women, and his stories were for the men, because the men and women learn really differently. We do. And this is why there's a massive movement towards the divine feminine. And my whole lifetime I have heard from many different cultures, different teachers, a lot of male teachers saying women are going to be the ones that save the earth. We are going to be the ones that create the movement that is going to move us into the new earth. And as far as I'm concerned, we are living in the new earth now. We're on it. Well, I'm living on that timeline. I've created it for myself, and that's all we all have to do, is create that timeline for ourselves. No one's going to come along and do it for you. You have to do it yourself. So this is where the empowerment comes from. And if you think a teacher is going to change your life for you, it's not going to happen. You know, and I've witnessed people who I've worked with, students of mine, I don't like to call them students, women who've sat in circle with me, go off and pay thousands of pounds for another teacher thinking they're going to sort them out, but actually you have to do the work yourself, which is what, I did a whole intensive few years with cancer and doing the work with Dr. Joe Dispenza and he's just like, you have to do the work yourself. No one's going to come along and just like bing your third eye and suddenly everything's open and you remember everything. You have to do that for yourself. You have to be empowered and change your story and find that inner wisdom. But what is beautiful about doing it in a group is that the energy is so much higher. So, that is why all my teachings are grassroots prices. And I've done teachings with, I've gone to courses and paid a lot of money and kind of come away going, I don't understand why they were even charging that much. I mean, even the week I did with Dr. Joe Dispenza, some people might go, oh my God, that was so expensive. What we got for the money, I don't think he paid himself an awful lot, to be honest. The amount of, people he has working with his team, that hiring the venue, the food we had every day, it's kind of like, and there are people who are nowhere near as experienced as that guy, charging more than him. And you've got to go, what are you paying for? What are you paying for? What are you going to get from that person? Because actually we are all teachers and we all bring our knowledge to the cauldron. And so what I am charging for mostly is my time. I'm giving up a day maybe to spend sitting with this group, and obviously I've come up with a rough plan of what we're going to be doing, but actually the work is getting your bum on the seat, sitting and doing the meditation or the breath work or whatever it is, or going out into nature and sitting with a tree and really doing it. And that's what you're paying for with your money. You're paying for someone to hold that space for you. You're coming together and you're being in that really powerful field, because things are always stronger. I mean, even Yeshua, Jesus said, where two or more pray in my name. It's like, that's where the power is, the coming together. So, I envision a time when we don't pay for any of this stuff. But at the moment, we live in the paradigm where we have bills to pay and rent to pay and things to buy and food on the table. But, I see much more in the future of, and I live this now actually, where some people come to my groups and I get paid in vegetables that they've grown, which I will willingly accept, or we do a swap for, whatever they're offering. I'm really happy sometimes to go, if I want what they're offering. It's like, sometimes people offering me things, I'm like, sorry, I don't need that. But it's, and also reflecting back to like these mystery schools. I mean, these mystery schools are still happening, and if you look at the ones that continued on that path of being only for the wealthy and being elite, that's where the power became inverted. Because for me, I stay grounded and I stay in the light and I stay in the beauty, because I think I've lived that life where I lived the inversion, and I think we all have to go into the darkness to know the light better. But that's what we're seeing on the planet now, is actually, the magic of these mystery schools has been taken and it's been abused, and it's still going on, and we are learning how to disconnect from that control and disconnect from those systems, and actually just focus on knowing that's going on and staying in our own core centers and not being distracted, because all of that stuff is to distract us from, you know, our center. And you can look at that in everything in life. I mean, it's, you know, when we're talking about money and abundance, you know, I go to teachers who are living, they're a living example of living in abundance, but they're not charging over the top prices, because that's what abundance is. And, you know, we can look in the world and there's such, you know, this polarity of like footballers being paid crazy amounts of money, but they're the modern day gladiators. That's just another distraction. It's like, you know, we can have this desire inside us for fame and fortune, or that kind of guru status, but we actually, if we look at those people who've been put on those platforms, how far they fall when, you know, they end up falling for the temptation, which is, you know, these are all the things that Yeshua, Jesus, was teaching us. You know, all the great teachers, Buddha, Muhammad, you know, kind of talking about Yeshua because he's in my field a lot at the moment, him and Mary Magdalene and Mother Mary. So I'm in that Christ consciousness energy a lot. That's where I look to for my wisdom, and the wisdom of the sun and the wisdom of nature. But that's the distortion, you know. It's like, you know, we look at these religions and pop stars and celebrities, and it's, you know, I think it would be really hard to live in that culture and stay grounded and not succumb to the addiction or the loneliness or the perversion, or, you know, all those 7 deadly sins, the gluttony. You know, it's like, yeah, we've come to this beautiful planet to enjoy this amazing 3rd dimensional body, which can feel pleasure and ecstasy, and, you know, we can satiate it with drugs and alcohol and food and sex and all of that stuff. And then there's the opposite extreme of the complete purity of, you know, religious whatever or choice. And it's about balance. It's always about balance. So that's kind of what I teach. So, you know, and I just thought, I was in meditation this morning, and I was having some past life bubbling remembrances coming up of the mystery schools, and just wanted to share. I was just contemplating, you know, what happened, where did it all get distorted, where did these mystery schools separate into, you know, this, what we now have as the elite, who are using their dark magic to try and hold control. But actually it's like, they can't, they're not going to win, they're flailing around. But yeah, so it's just my musings today really on all of that, and a little invitation that if you want to work with me, I am putting my Wise Woman, Medicine Woman 13 Moons Mystery School online. We will be meeting in person, on Zoom, mixture of both. So there's an invitation there for empowering yourself to break some of your old patterns, break some of your old stories, step into your divinity, and with realness, with groundedness. You know, I'm a northerner. I chose to be a northerner to bring that groundedness, you know, that northern no bullshit energy into the spiritual teachings that I offer, and the group offering of, you know, everyone is a teacher. So if you would like to join me, I will leave the details for that below, and I'd love to hear your experiences of different teachers and what you've learned. And often I find, you know, I go to teachers and I go to some that charge a lot, and I go some to charge a little, and ultimately you get from it what you want and what you put in and the work you put in. So, you know, there's always a choice there. I mean, I don't think it's that one person is better than another, or is teaching more than another person, or just because they're charging more doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be any better than anyone else. So like I said earlier, it's like look at their embodiment. Are they living their life? Are they walking their talk? Are they living their teaching? Have they been doing it for long enough? And not everyone is cut out to be a teacher. You can know something in your body but still be really rubbish at talking it. So do tasters with people before you commit. See what freebies they've got. You know, use your discernment, use your heart and your gut, and you'll find the right person. And I know I'm not for everyone. Marmite. I'm a bit of Marmite. Love or hate. So, and I think we're all like that. So use your heart. Many blessings.